With anchors Diane Sawyer in New York, Sam Donaldson in Washington, and chief correspondent Chris Wallace.
Tonight, a primetime investigation. You remembered the songs.
There is someone.
Maybe you were in high school on your first date. Now, nostalgia is a big business, and people are flocking to see these old bands. But who are they seeing?
You got the most phoniest group I've ever seen in my life.
Bands across the country playing major concerts, but are they the original members?
I think about another group, but they're reaping the profits that we work so hard to build.
Chief correspondent Chris Wallace takes you on a journey down memory lane, where what you see may not be what you get.
This song was written by a very good friend of ours, Miss Petula Clark.
You ever met Petula Clark?
Never once.
Prime Time. Now from New York, Diane Sawyer.
Welcome to Prime Time. How many times have you turned on the radio and heard a song that transported you right back to summer nights, high school, first love, slow dancing? Well, it happens so often that groups from 20, 30, even 40 years ago are now making big money performing old hits. But as Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace reports, the next time you go to an oldies concert, you may not be hearing whom you think you're hearing. Chris?
Diane, it's one of the music industry's dirty little secrets, the market for famous names from the early days of rock and roll. Back then, names like the Coasters and Box Tops were often owned by record companies or managers, but often not by the original artists. That didn't matter much when the groups faded. But now, with the oldies market booming, there's a scramble to buy the trademarks to use those names. And sometimes the people who made the music famous are shut out.
Here are the newest recording sensation, the Vogue.
There is someone walking behind you.
They were stars back in the 60s, kids from Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania, who made it big.
Look at me.
The Vogues had 8 top 40 hits, including 5 O'Clock World and
You're the one that I long to kiss, baby, you're the one that I really miss.
now they're tapping into the booming oldies market. But you may have trouble recognizing the Vogues today. Have they changed? Even more than 30 years can account for. How come?
You've seen a bogus band. There is not one original member in that band.
That's what you call them, a bogus band?
Yeah, there's not one original in there.
Chuck Blasco should know. He was an original Vogue, and he's still performing. But if Chuck Blasco and his group are the Vogues, and this other group says they are the Vogues,
which ones are the real Vogues?
The real Vogues are us.
So what are those other guys?
They're the Vogues in 14 counties.
If you're wondering what he's talking about, after the Vogues were no longer in vogue, their record companies sold the rights to their name. A federal judge ruled the originals are still the Vogues in western Pennsylvania, where they performed over the years. But the new group with the trademark are the Vogues everywhere else in the world.
How does it make you feel? I mean, you're one of the original guys who recorded the hits, but outside of western Pennsylvania, you can't perform as the Vogues.
Every day of my life I think about that. And I think about another group out there reaping the profits that we work so hard to build. It's not right. Something is not right.
It may not seem right, but it is legal, and it's a hot issue in the music industry. With top oldies acts now raking in $1 million a year, savvy businessmen are collecting trademarks of once famous groups so they can use their names. Meanwhile, the original artists who made those names famous often can't stop them.
Lonely days are gone, I'm a-going home. My baby used to wrote me a letter.
The Box Tops had a string of hits before breaking up in the early 70s.
Couldn't live without.
But they never filed a trademark. Someone else did, and leased it to this band, which tours the country without a single original member. Trademark groups can even fool the experts. Remember the Soul Survivors from the 60s? They're still performing. But the Nostalgia Channel unknowingly booked this trademark group. which badly lip-synced the original recording.
But I was wrong. Ooh, took too long. I got caught in the rush hour.
But the king of the new oldies is Larry Marshak.
Under the boardwalk.
A fast-talking promoter straight out of Guys and Dolls, he manages 4 groups.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming in.
The Marvelettes, Coasters, Platters, and Drifters. Marshak's groups work the top of the business: Las Vegas, Atlantic City. They've appeared on the Today Show and even sang for the president his last inaugural.
How many Coasters groups do you have?
On any given night, I might have as much as three groups of coasters. They're all performing the exact identical show.
Don't you give me no dirty.
That's 3 groups of coasters without an original member in sight. Marsh got the trademarks to these famous names from a variety of sources. He once even sued to keep an original drifter from using that group's name.
Stand by me.
Now, when Marshak needs to fill slots in his army of oldies groups, he just has open casting calls.
The coasters are no longer a show where the individuals matter. The only thing that matters about the individuals is that they're top quality performers. Doesn't matter who they are, it's just top quality.
The individual, I'm quoting you, the individuals don't matter.
Doesn't matter who the person is as long as he's top quality, no.
That's a big lie.
Carl Gardner has been a coaster since the group began in 1956.
And the coasters made all those songs famous, and people want to see that same group that made them famous.
There were 11 gold records, and when the coasters talk greatest hits, they have them.
Boys alive, yeah, yeah, yeah. Love pushes every night. You ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk that.
Take out the papers and the trash.
Carl Gardner sang on every one. In 1987, he and 3 other original coasters were the first vocal group inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Okay, I'm good.
Now, at age 70, with the oldie market booming, Gardner is still performing as a coaster.
Love potions of a life. Love potions of a life.
But he's having trouble finding work. He says because Marshak floods the market with low-cost knockoffs. We went with Gardner to watch Marshak's coasters play Atlantic City.
Given all of this, given all of the hard work, what are your thoughts when you see a group of young men being sold now as the coasters?
I was so devastated and so mad, so angry. I almost jumped up and started to yell in front of all those people, "You're not the coaster, get off that stage."
Do you have any sympathy for these original performers who made these songs famous and now can't perform under their own names?
When you say sympathy, I don't know these people. People I don't know, I can't have any sympathy for people I don't know. I don't even know them. Who are they to me? It's a matter of the public choosing our show over his show. He's jealous, he's unhappy, I don't blame him, but that's the free marketplace in the United States. That's what happens.
But the public may be choosing Marshak's act because he trades heavily on the original coasters. In his publicity, he recounts every bit of their proud history.
That makes him look like he has the original group. Therefore, he can lie and everybody believes that. But he doesn't have the original group.
What's he got?
He's got the most phoniest group I've ever seen in my life.
There's an identity crisis throughout the oldies market. After one concert by an unrelated group, we asked people how many originals they'd seen.
I would assume all.
I think there's 3 of them.
What would you think if I told you none of them were the original band members?
Really? I'd be surprised.
When you own a name, you're entitled to use all the goodwill associated with it.
Marshak says there's nothing wrong with using a group's history. That comes with the trademark. But we wondered whether he doesn't go too far when he lists the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in publicity for his coasters.
Do you think that's at all misleading?
I don't think that there's even the slightest iota of misleading in it. Not even the slightest iota.
Simple question. Because members of the Hall of Fame are inducted by name, not just as a group. What members of your coasters were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Simple answer. You're 100% totally wrong. Members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame were inducted as a group. I started a lawsuit against the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay.
You sued them too?
Yes. I started a lawsuit against the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they were trying to induct people that I didn't approve of in the Drifters.
We checked with the Hall of Fame, which says only Carl Gardner and 3 originals were inducted as the coasters. But officials declined to go on camera, noting Marshak's reputation for filing lawsuits.
I call you up and ask you if you'd like to go with me and see a movie.
If you want some idea just how devastating trademark groups can be for the original artists, consider the case of Dennis Yost. He was lead singer for the Classics 4 and their 1960s hit song.
Love is kinda easy with a spooky little girl like you.
But Dennis Yost can't perform as the Classics 4 anymore. This band now has all rights to the trademark.
They've worked Las Vegas, a lot of the major hotels, and made a lot of money off of it. And then when I go try to get up in the area, they say, well, we've already had the Classics 4.
Yost is left doing smaller oldie shows and says he's been threatened with a lawsuit if he even mentions the Classics 4 he made famous. It has been a great burden to Yost, who recently got out of an alcohol treatment program.
You know, I'm just about a major depression case. It's like someone stealing my heart. You know, it's like someone stealing my life from me.
As much as the money, that's what eats at the original artists. They feel these trademark groups are stealing their identity. The clearest case of that we saw was the New Vogues, despite what leader Terry Brightbill would have you believe.
I don't want to mislead people. I don't want people to get the idea that I'm telling them that I'm an original member.
We have some clips from one of your performances, and I want to show you something. Take a look.
We're going to start our little journey back in 1965 with a hit we had in that year called 5 O'Clock World.
You say, here's a hit we had in 1965. You didn't record 5 O'Clock World in 1965, Mr. Brightbill?
No, I didn't.
What do you call that?
It's just business.
We showed him some more of how he does business.
This song is written by a very good friend of ours, Miss Petula Clark. Here's one I know you've got to remember.
Petula Clark, a good friend of yours?
No.
You ever met Petula Clark?
Never once.
But you told me a couple of minutes ago that you don't pass yourselves off as the original artists. What do you call that?
I don't see it that way, but I see where you're coming from. You know, it's just, I'm just doing my performance.
It is just a performance for the new oldies. But it's a lot more for rock and roll pioneers, like Carl Gardner every time he loses a booking, or Dennis Yost, who can't use the name he made famous. Chuck Blasko, in his frustration, had one idea how to make things right. An old-fashioned battle of the bands.
My group would blow them right off the stage. Vocally, instrumentally, sound-wise, everything.
But you really think if the two of you performed side by side as the Vogues,
people would know?
What's this going to prove? Who are the real Vogues?
So how do you respond to his challenge?
I have, you know, I don't need to prove anything to anyone.
You're the real Vogues.
We are the real thing.
A couple of footnotes. Terry Brightbill of the New Vogue says he is redoing his show and will no longer take credit for the work of the original Vogues. As for Dennis Yost of the original Classics 4, he is back in the hospital, being treated again for depression. We'll be right back.